This is the Stabby Road Podcast.
Hey everyone, thanks again for dropping in on us. Another episode of the Stabby Road Podcast. This time we have a little bit of a different episode, not too different from what we did a couple of weeks ago. We are recapping our live show. Last time we were on to recap a show, we did the Rocky Horror Picture Show, and this week we're doing Jaws. But first, I gotta get a couple stuff out of the way. One, if you are a horror filmmaker and you've got a horror short under 30 minutes or under, or you're a horror screenwriter and you have a screenplay that is 30 pages and under, please do not hesitate and go right to filmfreeway.com. Go to Scared for Your Life, that is LIIFE, and submit to that horror podcast, horror festival. And don't forget to use our promo code Stabby 2026 for 20% off. We have partnered with the Scared for Your Life Horror Film Festival for the second year in a row, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Last year we had tons and tons of vendors there, including Manny and Lindsay Serrano, who are friends of the show and were also vendors this past Friday at Jaws, the Jaws recap. So please, if you have any one of those things, if you have a horror film that is 30 minutes or under, or if you have a horror podcast or horror screenplay that is 30 pages or under, please don't forget to submit it. Now, you do have a little bit of time if you want to make a film, because the deadline is October 31st, right? The festival itself is going to be December 19th. So you have a little bit of time if you still are in production and you want to finish your film and get it out there. The deadline is October 31st. All right. Don't forget, use promo code Stabby 2026 for 20% off your submission fee today. Now, let us talk about this past Friday, July 31st, when we had our live show. We were so excited to do it. It was such a huge success. And right now, I'm going to bring on the two folks who've made this possible, and that is Teresa Lambert and Ralph Mandarino. Hey guys, how are you?
There we go. Hi, how are you?
Good,
everyone.
Good. So I again have to start this off by just throwing so much gratitude at you guys for allowing us to be part of that. We were saying Friday night that we were like, oh, this is like a second home for us now. We have our studio, and now we have Necromance. We have a place
that makes us happy.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks, guys. I appreciate it. I want to start because we never really talked about this with Rocky Horror. What goes into pulling off a night like that? In other words, like you've got your idea, right? Where do you go from there?
So first we start with blood, sweat, and tears. No, I'm kidding. So honestly, it really starts off with, an idea, and with Jaws and Rocky Horror, I think it stems usually from something like an item or something maybe like a movie that we have seen, or even just, a piece of nostalgia. So one of the things that actually was a good friend of mine that I had worked with had bought me a bottle of Amity Ale Red from Martha's Vineyard last year. And this was something that I presented to Ralph and was like, oh my God, like, have you ever heard of this? And I was just going to give it to him and was like, oh, and then I was like, do you want to drink it with me? And then it kind of snowballed when we first had started dating into like, why don't we do a Jaws event? Why don't we, do, and it just, so usually what goes into it is an idea, obviously.
Yeah, the execution of the idea is the challenge. So you say, okay, well, we can have a Jaws event, now what? And you say, well, we have the theme months. So because we have monthly themes, now you say, well, when animals attack, that's going to be our Jaws event. But then further than that, you have to say, all right, well, cool. So that's the entirety of July, pick a time.
Yeah.
And then, of course, with collaboration with you guys, your availability, and then syncing up and saying, well, probably, just for simplistic sake, Shark Week makes a lot of sense.
Right.
Let's fit it into that. And then so the other aspect and challenge is we have other events too. And I've always been, I'm kind of guilty of, we kind of cannibalize our own events. So in other words, if there's something even equally as fun a day or two before, now you're splitting the amount of people that would come on one event to another event. Are they going to come back for a secondary event? So to your point, it's more than just being like, hey, let's just, do something, throw some stuff on the calendar and hope it works.
Yeah.
And then of course, then there's, now that you have an event, the brewery is the brewery. There are fixtures and things that are just not going anywhere.
Right.
So how do you make it unique to what it is that you're trying to accomplish? And that's, where more planning comes in, research, and then, somebody that has a keen eye for, making things look different and spectacular at the same time. So
Right.
it's,
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the biggest challenges for me being the event coordinator is always the coordination of it all, in the way, like he was saying, you have to look at what is going on, not only within trend, but you also have to look at what's going on, like, in the area. Is there some sort of big game going on within sports? Because that's not something that we partake in our tap room. But
Right.
not only that, you want to make sure that what you're doing is going to hit the demographic that it's for, if not on a wider scale. Like we were just actually like talking before, you want to make sure that this event is not only going to bring in one type of person, you want to make it so that you're bringing in multiple types of people. So, we got our cinephiles, we have our Jaws diehards, we have people that are just obsessed with Long Island, from where we're at. And then they grew up on beaches and they just know Jaws from growing up. You have people that are into marine biology, you have people like of all different types of nature. And that's, exactly what we try to bring to Necromantic with every event is, our events are for maybe one type of person, but they truly are for everybody.
Right.
And filtering it in on, we're looking at our tap room and the age category. Now, typically, our age category is anywhere from like 25 and up. But our main category is 25 to about, I would say like 60.
Yeah.
Which is a very wide range. However, are these people going to come out on a Thursday night? They are parents. They have to find babysitters. Maybe, they work a late job that they have to be up the next morning. So I think doing it on that Friday and doing these cool movie marathons on a Friday where people can take that time to say, hey, let's not go to dinner. And, let's not, what's going on in there? Let's check it out. Not only that, we always are showing off our products and things like that where people might be a little bit hesitant. I mean, Show Me the Way to Goes Home is our Jaws beer. That's awesome. However, how are we marketing that? Not only that, how with the flavor being so different, how are we giving it to people without overloading the product and shoving it in people's faces?
Mhm.
And I think the perfect opportunity is in those flights. So not only that, some people might be like, you know what, as much as I love this, we do get people who are those, maybe not so heavily into beer. How are we getting those people to drink the beer? That's where I put the lay into place, where you're seeing on that live podcast, the blinking lays of when people, purchase the flight, they get the lay. So it's like all these things go into it of how are people getting the most out of the immersive experience? And a big challenge is how are we doing it within, that way, but also making it that it's easy for us to do in a tap room situation where we are still kind of considered mom and pop and shop local, where it's a little bit, nostalgic in that way.
Yeah.
So, it's cool, the DIY and all that. I think that's my favorite part of it. Although it's also my biggest challenge is the whole DIY. I use stuff from all different events. Like we had stuff from like Halloween that people wouldn't have known that's from Halloween, or we have, the lights and stuff, which is from Valentine's Day, and I'm just taking these little things and utilizing them and adding them and kind of creating, I use them for different things, but it still executes so grand. And those water lights were pretty sick, man.
I was going to say,
it was great.
because now every social media picture I see, immediately what it is, because the lighting was so specific. And and just scrolling through it, I'm like, oh, that was Necromance. That was Necromance. Because
it was a cool thing to see.
Yeah, for those who weren't there that night, it was like bathed in blue. It was almost like an enchantment under the sea dance or something, where it was just just like water, and it was so great because it had such a distinct look. from any
Yeah.
other night that night. Because when we did Rocky Horror, I think it was like we bathed it in red. So
Right.
it could, if you're just looking at the two of them separately and you've never been to Rocky Horror, I mean to Necromantic, it may actually look like you're in two different places. So
Right.
I love that. So that even just the lighting is themed to very specifically whatever movie we're showing that night.
Yeah, and then I
Yeah.
think the hardest challenge is how are we going to make it more immersive than just feeling like you're underwater. And
Right.
I went back into like childhood in a way, and
Mhm.
I was like, oh my god, like, when we were all kids, we all used to have like these crazy floats and stuff like that and pretend like, oh, shark, like whatever. I'm
Right.
like, what if I just got one and I pretended that that was the moment with Jaws, which was such a hilarity, humorous moment that really just
Yeah.
like broke maybe, people not feeling bored, but that kind of like silent feeling of like, yo, it's okay to laugh here. Like, you're good. You're not in the movie theater, which is what we always try to promote, like Ralph says.
Yeah.
No, it's great. I mean, to me, the last challenging piece of it is whatever we're doing, from 7 to 11 or 8 to 11, the next day it's got to get broken down.
Yeah.
And then we open up at 12:30 in the afternoon. So there's
Right.
not a big gap between, whatever that event is
Right.
to the next day. And so that to me was always, whenever that last person is gone, then the breakdown
Gotta break
starts.
down.
Yeah, you want to keep the optical illusion, obviously, until the end, and that's what we always try to do with every event. The days leading up to it are a little bit harder than the breakdown because you'll just be like, okay, like I'm just taking this down, but like the placement has to work around all these items that we have. For example, it's like, do we, we were even discussing like, do we move the orca table? No, we can't because then we'll have two Jaws sections. We want to keep one like
Right.
formal
Right.
section and really highlight that. And like we will probably be doing that again with another section that we have coming in middle of November, that we'll be highlighting
Yes.
that area and really, taking moments. But as I said, it always starts with a piece of something. And for me this time around, it was that Jaws wine that I had received from a friend and realizing like, hey, we actually like have a lot of Jaws stuff at the brewery like that we're so lucky to have. And all these like little random props kind of just start to create an idea. And, like he said, I'm the person, I have a million ideas. He's better at filtering it. And that's what makes us work so well
Right.
together. Definitely, I will say that there's, sometimes some tips and things like that. But it's like he'll be like, wait, no, actually, let me see it from that perspective. And I'm like, no, wait, like, let me see it from ending.
Right.
Just all of a sudden, then all of a sudden we start to bullet point. And then that's when I'm like, hey, guys, let's set up a meeting. So a lot of it goes into it. It's kind of like this big storm cloud that like
Yeah.
comes over in a happy way. And the raindrops were like, oh, and that's like kind of how we get our ideas until we have that bucket of water that we're like, okay, we're
Right.
able to drink from this now.
Exactly.
So
And I love your enthusiasm because we're all like the Stabby Road and we're all in like an Instagram group. So we can, as we work
That's
stuff
right.
out. And like every couple of days, like like when I see you have like, oh, Teresa commented in the group, I start smiling immediately because it's always like, hey guys, I got a giant inflatable shark. And they're like,
yeah.
and they're like, well, I'll turn to like Josh will be next to you as well. Like this is going to be insane. This night is going to be
Oh
crazy.
yeah. Yeah. And like that's what
And then
I
you
think
had two inflatable sharks, by the way. You have
Yes, I had two inflatable
Yeah.
sharks because one just wasn't big enough. So I was like, I need, but I joke around because, Ralph always had his name, the founder of fear. And like, what am I to, you have the founder of fear and then you have what was my old name, Poxy Rose. I'm like, I don't really fit that narrative as much anymore.
Right.
So, you have the founder of fear and it's like, well, what am I going to be? And it's like, I'm the queen of chaos because I love chaotic scenarios. So that's kind of just where it came from. So that's, what my branding is, where there is fear, there is chaos. And I think that that's something that we always try to represent within being there. And I'm kind of like the one, basically with like the top hat and the cane, like, hello, my baby. And he's just kind of like with the cane and like, he's got to kind of reel me in sometimes because I do get a little bit like, I joke around, I call him the rope to my air. So it's just pretty nuts that way. Oh, I think
we're happy. We're very happy with the way things have been, progressing, especially recently. We've had a lot of influx of new um, collaborations with not just the idea aspects, but who's coming in, who's doing what.
Mhm.
We've had some ideas that I shelved for a couple of years that I hadn't been able to execute because I just didn't have the manpower or the idea. Like you have an idea, but you just don't have the not just manpower, but like the locomotion behind it,
Right,
because
right.
it's the marketing aspect of it. Like everything has to go hard.
Yeah.
And if
There's
not, no, you can have a party, but it doesn't mean anyone's coming.
Right.
Yeah, and there's certain things where, I think there's the word palatable. And how are you going to make this palatable to people, or how are you going to make this make sense? For something, for example, I have been helping run the brew room for the past like 8 months. So I kind of came into my idea of the whole Final Girl Friday, which I would
Mhm.
love, people like Mass Grave Productions is going to be getting in on that. And,
Oh, great.
just certain little things. And even I was talking to our beloved Sonia and things
Yeah.
like that, like getting, the women involved that keep Necromantic running.
Right.
And, something like a Final Girl Friday, you would want it to be ran by specifically, a female. So, Ralph kind of had this idea
Right.
and came to me and said, like, we saw these things like all female networking events. There's all female raves. There's all female dance parties and all female clubs and all female bingo. And I'm like, well, how am I going to give back to my community? And how am I going to create a safe space? And when he was like, why are we not doing something like this? And I'm like, why are we not doing something like
Right.
this? And that's kind of where that idea of Final Girl Friday came from. And, and this is where that same thing, like some of the people that were at Final Girl Friday, they know that that's going to be an experience, maybe not so as grandiose as Jaws, but they know that it's a similar one. So
Right.
you have those people going, well, I know I like the Final Girl Fridays, and I know that like she makes it so different, because that I watched it in pink. And I make it very Y2K and all that kind of stuff. I wonder what she's going to do for Jaws. And I'm starting to notice it's like, well, what's next? Well,
Right.
what's next? And I'm starting to, well, what are you doing next? Well, what's the next event that you're going to do? And, then they're, going to Ralph and being like, what's your ideas? What's your ideas for the place? So kind of like it's given us this newfound, you know, ideas and this newfound like excitement that we're like,
Right.
oh my God, we're going to make this like it's a whole new realm of trend essentially. And how are we going to make trend into something that's going to happen, and it's something that now this is the second one. Now it's going to be consistent. Like,
Right.
as I said, we'll have one, every other month or every 3 months, every quarter, whatever, that this big Stabby Road Necromantic
Yeah. It was
collaboration.
actually our third. If you remember, we actually did My Bloody Valentine.
That's
That was
right.
our
Third,
first.
yes, yeah, and
Yeah.
that's
So
right, and that
yeah.
was the first one, and now it's going to be our fourth. So it's like
Yeah.
this is
Even
something that
that,
people know and they're going to expect.
you can see, from a attendance standpoint, because when you start doing something new, it takes a little while to get traction
Right.
too. And so, but you can see now definitively that it's an event that has traction where, where we were on that first My Bloody Valentine to where we were at Rocky Horror, to where
Yeah.
we are now, with Jaws,
Yeah.
there is
when
a
my
definitive difference.
Yeah, my right before the movie started Friday, Stabby Tech Josh, my son, his fiance came in with her mom and her mom's boyfriend. They were going to eat across the street at the diner, and when they came back, it was the middle of the movie. They had to stand up. There were no seats left.
Right.
And I was
I
like, "Wow,
know.
this is amazing."
And just so you know,
Yeah,
we have 42 seats.
yeah,
Yeah,
So
we do. It
it's
was
not
packed.
like, it's not like there's just 10 seats at the bar for those that
exactly.
don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
So there's a booth, there's 2 tables of 8, there's 2 tables of 4,
Yeah.
and then 10 stools at the bar. So
Yeah, it is truly not only a tap room, but it is a venue. And that's something that we always try to let people know.
Yeah.
Like, and with the whole lighting, that like we really truly try to change the element of like daytime into nighttime, because think of it this way, in Disney World or, Bayville Screen Park and all that. It's like, that nice, like, oingo boingo kind of like, oh, this is great. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
and then at night it gets freaky. Like, we
Right.
want that kind of realm where it's like, here's the PG-13 horror, nostalgia 80s, like, and then into this more like immersive. This is creepy. I feel like slightly uncomfortable, but I'm having fun. Like, we want to kind of get that realm going more and more, and like we want to be that place to be. And not
Right.
only is it a place to be like, quote unquote, like the club or whatever, this is another option, and this is still fun.
Yeah.
This can be part of your lifestyle. Like, just because you're the age category you are, like, that doesn't mean that you can't still have fun and can't go out. Like, and
Right.
maybe you're not so much of a heavy, like a hardcore drinker, and you're like, well, all my friends are doing this, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like, I want to sit down and watch a movie. And how much better is it the fact that I can talk the whole way through?
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
you tell us some, experiences you had, with, interacting with some of the people there that night.
Yeah, it's like I said, we there was a gentleman who it turns out that named James, who came up to us and he was like, "Oh, he didn't know any one of us particularly, but he was like a fan. He brought his girlfriend. He was the one who ended up winning that inflatable shark, and so that was fun to know that we had, we were starting to have fans that didn't know us specifically. There was another fan who came in who was a friend of Sonia's, but he came in. He was a puppeteer, and he had a lot of questions for me because I directed at Sesame, and he drew this amazing caricature of all of us. I'll put it up now. As we're talking, and so that was a lot of fun too. There are some regulars who we actually know now. And then what I love so much too is that uh, it's pet friendly too. So
the dogs.
yeah, we have Dr. Loomis, who's this big. I don't even know what type of dog is Dr. Loomis.
He's actually a golden doodle.
Yeah.
Oh wow,
a golden doodle. But yeah,
wow. How did that? How do you breed that? All right. Anyway, but he has a lay of the land, man. He just walks around and
that's it.
Everyone pets him as he walks by. Little Smokey, who's in his own little
carriage.
Is he a Chihuahua? Is that what he is?
Believe it or not, he's a Pomeranian.
Oh my God,
a little old.
Right, he's just got a skin issue, so he lost some of his.
Yeah, he's
okay.
So he's in his little, but he's just as much of a necromantic mascot as me and Ralph.
Absolutely,
and
yeah.
And you guys are getting your own little necromantic fan base there.
I'm so happy about that, and just interacting with different people. As we were saying, I don't think we said this on the air today. We were saying it a little bit earlier, but we look at it now as like another home for us. We have our studio, which is not here. I can't actually mention the location, but but we have our studio, and then now I feel like, and that's our home, like where we record and all that. But now I feel like this is like another home for us.
It's your vacation rental.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly. We because we're not there each week. We're there like once every couple of weeks. And, and it's just so it's for those of you who are just listening to this and don't know Necromantic Brew Company, please go. Was it 753 Main Street?
253.
Oh my God, 253 Main Street in Farmingdale. Please go. Particularly if you are a horror fan and you like good stuff to drink. It's just the atmosphere itself is so worth going. I love it there. We love going there. And the other day we had to shoot, TJ and I had to shoot something, and I was just excited just to be inside there, just to go back and just, like they were playing The Howling or something or whatever, but like it had nothing literally nothing to do with us, but I still enjoyed just hanging out there. And yeah, we really do look at it as a second home, so that's something, and that's because of you guys creating that atmosphere for us to feel that way.
That makes me happy, because that's always been the goal, for everybody, and that goes back to what we were talking about before, where, for our purposes, we have a wild statistic, almost 70% of our clientele is female.
Wow.
We're like normal bars, that's not the case.
Right.
You know what I mean? If sports bars particularly, have been, generationally male dominated
Right.
because sports. But yeah, for us,
Right.
it's a wild stat, but it's great. You can see it, when you're there. Everybody's excited to be there. Everybody's happy, comfortable, so people say they love coming in and, they feel like it's their spooky little cheers.
Right. Right.
So,
That's
I'll take
a
it.
perfect way of putting it. Spooky little cheers. Yes. Yes, exactly. I also want to speak about I'm always loving our choice of movies too, because I didn't really think of this until we were there, that a movie like Jaws, you forget how captivating it can be to an audience, because you're not used to. I mean, I saw it when I was a little kid in the theater. I was probably a little too young, but at the time, but there was a great moment that night, and I really wanted to bring it up because it really shows the power of storytelling. And that is, you know, it is a bar after all, and a venue. And so people talk, they chat, they're having a good time. They're still watching the movie, but
That's
it's
right.
not like you're not confined like a movie theater, right? And so people, the dialogue and talking went up and down or whatever. But there was that moment where Quint talks. They're on the boat and they talk about the USS Indianapolis.
That's
I don't
right.
know if you noticed.
Dead fucking
You
silent.
could have heard a pin drop, and that goes to the power of storytelling, the power of really good movie making. That everyone, it was silent. It was absolutely silent. Or when at the end, when spoiler alert for anyone who's never seen Jaws.
LOL.
When the shark blew up at the end, like the entire place erupted with a huge cheer, and so it really was
And even the sing along in the movie too, just like Rocky Horror, like people were singing along to the songs, but even, that moment of, because we were playing the drinking game, a couple of people were definitely like, their third or fourth beer in and really just chanted, "Show me the way." And you could hear
great.
like the eruption, like you would have never
yeah.
heard that anywhere else. And that was a really cool moment,
Yeah.
and even to be like, guys, sing it louder, when I do those things, it's more of not only just we're all watching a movie together. Like movies were always my therapy. So being able to share something that's therapy for me, I tell people this all the time with Ralph. I watch like 7 new horror movies a week on top of everything that we watch,
It's part of the job description.
Yeah, no, it definitely was on my resume. Watches, the worst and the best movies. But being able to share that moment that maybe you had when you were at home once with other people and just have that collective
shared experiences.
You
can't put a price on shared experiences.
Shared experiences.
Absolutely.
And it's not something sad or angry or like whatever. It's you're all coming together for a really happy and genuine moment and laughing together.
Some of my favorite moments of all, like I say, in the 4 years that we've been doing this, has been the big movie watch alongs, when we'll do a big night surrounded by a specific film, and watching people's reactions for me is like everything, because I'm the kind of person where, I like a movie, I can watch it 10,000 times, you know what I mean? And of course that's an exaggeration, but I'll watch it 150.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And that's not, so when you introduce somebody to something and it's almost like a rite of passage movie.
Yeah.
And so being a part of that for somebody, with somebody, like I have people for sure that have come in there that have said, "Oh, I didn't even know what Terrifier was until I was in here."
Yeah.
We watched The Substance, I want to say maybe 2 weeks after it was released in theaters, as fast as I could purchase those, the newer films. Sometimes people have been skipping the theater and seeing it here because I've been buying them as fast as I can.
Yeah. Like, just instead of being like, I'll wait for it so I can watch it at home. Now we're having people be like, I'll wait till Necromantic just does an event based around it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a cool one. From I think it was 2 years ago, had to have been Cocaine Bear. Cocaine Bear. I couldn't. If I told you, so for those that don't know, we have a bar and then we've got, a menu board in the middle of the bar, but we have 2 TVs flanking the board.
Yeah.
when I played Cocaine Bear, and mind you, it was a whim on a Saturday. We were slow, we
Right.
were dead, nobody was coming in. I made a quick story like Cocaine Bear in 15 minutes, and I just bought it. And then I was playing like snippets of it. I tilted the televisions to the windows and people were coming in off the streets
Wow.
and they were
Oh,
like,
that's
"Is that
amazing.
fucking Cocaine Bear?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's Cocaine Bear." And they're like, "You guys are watching Cocaine Bear?" And I'm like, "Fuck yeah, dude, we're starting in like 10 minutes." He's like,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden, I kid you not, within an hour, so let's say it was half an hour into the movie,
Yeah.
the whole place was packed.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
And that'll
incredible.
happen a lot
Yeah.
with movies. It happened recently again, even though it's not a great movie, but like that's what I'm saying. I watch even the crappy ones that we comment like, why did they make this actor blah blah blah? We watched Congo this
Right.
past month and I had not a single person in, but I had people coming in just to purchase, our to-go cans. And they were like, wait, do you guys have Congo on? They were like, is this Tim Curry? I'm like, yes, it is. They're like, Tim Curry does a horrible Russian accent. I need to sit down.
Yeah, and then they stay.
And then they end up staying.
Yeah.
So like that's what I'm saying. It's like I joked around. I said, it's a bad thing, but for the horror aspect, I said the people are like cockroaches. They come and they never leave. And you know what? We love it. Give us the creepy crawlies. Give us everybody. So
Right.
we're all for it.
That's great. That's so great. Yeah, and you're right. It is. There's something really communal about it. And I love that there's this community there that's there. Because I see like a lot. Like I said, like I forget the gentleman who owns Smokey, who's there.
Mark.
Mark, yeah. Like I look forward to seeing him when I come in now. I'm like, and other people I don't even know their names, or I just kind of just recognize them from being there all the time.
Yeah.
And so it's a really cool thing that you guys have done, that you built this sort of little local horror community that loves drinks. So
it's
Yeah.
far, believe it or not, I kid you not, it's far reaching. Like I still get messages from somebody that I came in from business, once from Alaska. And
Wow.
and then, he normally comes in every, however long. And I mean, when I say come in, he comes to New York, every so often for business training and everything else. And, the first time I met him, funny guy, he was like, he goes, I've traveled all over the country. He goes, I've never seen anything like this. He says, this is very unique to say the least.
Yeah.
And he says, that's the whole reason I come to this place today, because when I travel so frequently, I want to go to new and exciting places. Otherwise,
Right.
I'm not going to go to the same place twice. It doesn't make sense. And there's so many places in the world to see. Why go back? And I said, oh, so you only go to a place once and then basically you fuck off and I never see you again.
Right.
And he
Right.
says, yeah, that's what I'm telling you. And I said, okay, we'll see. And sure as shit, 6 weeks later, there was an
Yeah.
emergency that they shipped him back to New York for. And he was walking through the door and I'm looking at him and I said, I thought you don't go to the same place twice, Sam. And he goes, you remember my name? I said, of course I remember your name. I said, it doesn't happen every day where somebody's going to come in here and say, oh, I'm one and done,
Yeah.
to make an admission of that, So I said, okay. So he comes in, sits, has lunch, orders in, whatever, hanging out. He leaves. And 6 months after that, Sam's back again. So I had to give him the business after that. And he goes, you know something, Ralph? He goes, I'm going to be honest with you. He goes, that rule still applies, just not to you.
Right.
I said, okay, I can live with that. And so whenever, I would say about 3 weeks ago, he sent me something from Anchorage, Alaska.
Wow.
Because he took a bunch of our stickers, and now wherever he goes in his hometown,
Oh, that's so cool.
He puts the stickers up. So he'll tag me, and be like, hey, you're in this place in Anchorage, you're in this place here and there. And it's wild. So,
you're like a horror version of Flat Stanley.
Yeah. Flat Stanley.
That's great. All right.
But so we're happy, and that's why we're glad to have you guys, to be a part of that now. And it's wild, it's cool, it's fun. I always tell people, I don't know how much longer we're doing it. I don't know how long it's going to be in existence, but for however long it's here, it is an absolute pleasure and a fun time. And from our customers to our vendors to our, our guests and partners.
Yeah.
Absolutely been a thrill.
Yeah, well, we are beyond grateful for you guys. We're gonna close it out here, but really, we cannot show you guys enough gratitude for this because we're so grateful that you've given us another home and another place to um, convey our voices and show movies, which is an aspect we couldn't do obviously on a podcast.
Right.
And so to create this kind of community and for us to be part of your community on those nights is, we're beyond thrilled for that. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We've come to another end to our episode, another episode of the Stabby Road podcast. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to all our stuff, including Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And also now, for you folks on Long Island, if you have a Roku box, go to Strong Island TV. We are there every Saturday night at 11 p.m., right after two, I would imagine, royalty-free movies, horror films that come on. So that's it. On behalf of everyone, thanks again, folks, and we will see you next week.
Stabby Road Podcast was created by Joe Senna, recording technicians Josh Graydon and Eric Todd. The Stabby Road Podcast is a production of Fourth Castle, all rights reserved. See you next week.